Before my identity transformation, I was living on autopilot. I felt disconnected, not just from myself, but from the world around me as well. And I was working so many different jobs. I think I changed job around 6 to 7 times until I finally got to the one that on paper looks good. So I was working my way out a corporate job, living in a big glamorous city, whilst also having all the highs. So I had the weekend of social events. I had about 6 to 7 holidays a year. But even with these things, I still felt unfulfilled and like something was missing. But as my life looked good on paper, who was I to complain? I didn't want to ask for too much. I still hadn't processed past trauma, and this was showing up in my relationships and also in the way that I felt about myself. I was anxious, I had low self-esteem, I had zero confidence. And I was stuck in victim mentality, basically thinking that the whole world was against me and that everything that had happened to me in my past was the reason that I couldn't do X, Y, and Z. So I was always holding that back and using it as an excuse. And I want to share with you today the 3 major shifts and pivotal moments that I had in order to get me from there to where I am now, which is basically the opposite of everything I have just described. The first thing was for me to slow down. And this was so empowering. And I did this through yoga and meditation. I started to really embody this version of myself that had more patience and had more moments of calm and had more reflection. And I started to practice self-observation and thought observation. For the first time ever, it was like I was really looking in the mirror at who I was and what was going wrong and where my thoughts were holding me back. And this was so empowering in itself because it was like a light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, you get to choose. You get to choose how you feel. And for the last 25 years, you have been deciding to feel down. You have been deciding to be the victim. You have been deciding not to process and to detach and to disconnect. Second thing I did was start to do inner child work. And I know you've heard about this before, but I can't explain to you how impactful this was. And I also started to address my limiting beliefs that came from my inner child. And I did this by basically becoming her best friend. I started realizing that I had been speaking to myself with a critical voice basically all my life, and that it wasn't getting me anywhere. So I started to choose compassion over criticism and speak to myself and my inner child as if she was my best friend. And literally everything changed. Then I learned how to rewire those limiting beliefs into new positive affirmations in order to actually change the way that I completely perceived myself. And therefore, when I started to change the way I perceived myself, my actions started to align with the version that I wanted to become. And therefore, because my actions changed, my habits changed, my thoughts changed, my external world started to change. The thing that I did was starting to visualize, and visualize not just like a slightly better version, but an insanely powerful, confident, more content, peaceful, present version of myself, because I realized that all the limitations that I had set for myself were just limitations in my mind. And when I completely removed those barriers and those limitations in my mind, that I can become whoever I want to be. So I started to visualize this version of myself every single day. And I still do this practice now. And basically the version and the end goal of this person that I'm actually becoming becomes more expansive, bigger, braver, bolder every time I practice it, because I get more and more confident to realize that I get to decide. I get to decide who I become. And I do this every day. And then with that, my actions start to again align with that version. And then I push myself out my comfort zone again and again until it just became my normal. And now it becomes so normal. And I actually get a bit of a buzz over showing up to something that feels scary and that feels new for me. And I just do this over and over again until your dreams start to become bigger and your goals start to become bigger. Now I'm embracing slow living in a beachside town that I had dreamt about living in for years, whilst also being a present mother for 2 children. But most importantly, I feel confident, I feel limitless, and I feel brave enough to push through fears again and again. Who also didn't come to me easily, but I never gave up on this vision of how my family would feel and how it would look. I created my dream job, literally working with dream clients around the world, helping them in ways that I never thought possible, just from feeling confident to share my story and share the steps that I use to get me from where I was to where I am now. I feel peaceful. I feel grounded. I know that I get to decide how I feel. So therefore I feel empowered. And I no longer need the alcohol. I no longer need the social events to feel good. I no longer need multiple holidays and travel around the world to feel good. Extra things are a bonus, but I do not need them to feel content in who I am. I wake up every single day with this vision and goal of the woman who I am striving to become. And it's such a big, brave, bold picture. If I said it out loud to you, you'd probably laugh because you think it's so crazy and so out there and maybe not realistic. But I don't believe that, because I believe that the limitations are just the things that I set in my mind. And this is exactly how I work with women in my space to become who they are striving to be.